Yeah, boy, here we go again. Thursday night, Dynasty Junkies, episode 95, part of the Dynasty Addicts Podcast Network, if you will. And we shall. This is your man, Scott Sidlow, on the mic tonight. Got my co-host, Andrew Hall, in the house. What's up, Andrew?
What is up, Scott? This is a good time of year. We're happy to be alive. It's Dynasty time. Rookie drafts are happening, and Eliminators are kicking off. This is a good time of year.
Way too many rookie drafts going on right now, but can you ever have too many rookie drafts? That is
you can. I'm in 4 and it's a lot. I'm sure you're in 15 or 20. That's crazy.
No, I was in the 30s a few days ago and I'm over it, honestly. But that'll mean I've got some information for that, so we can help out the listeners. It's going to be a good night.
I like that.
And we've got just the man to do it here with. It's actually my first time, I believe, getting to podcast with Mr. John Bosch after many years of listening to him and then getting into 2 of his crazy leagues here just a couple months ago and trying to not make a complete fool of myself there. So Mr. at John Bosch FF on the Twitter machine. What's going on, John? Thanks for joining us tonight.
Oh, nothing. I got nothing going on right now. Absolutely nothing.
Liar.
No, we kicked off the Eliminators yesterday evening, and it's been wild. People are excited, which is awesome. So keep signing up, folks. Keep filling them. We're actually way ahead of where we were last year. Yeah. Last year, the day one was kind of a nightmare for me, and that was when last year was when I decided it was time to give up some control and bring in some helpers to help build the leagues. And this year that expanded. Andrew's now helping as well. So
nice.
It's a lot of help to make it go as smoothly as it's going. And it feels like to me, like we're still way behind, but then I just try and tell myself it's day one. Nobody was expecting 50 leagues to get started today. So.
Yeah.
What year is this that you've been doing this now?
So 2017 was the first year that I ran them. I'll never forget Scott calling and saying hey, do you have any ideas on things we can do to raise a little bit more money for Fantasy Cares and for the Toys for Tots shopping? And I was like,
awesome.
Oh, do I? I was like, I actually do have an idea. The Eliminator, I ran it in 2016 as a listener league in a competition amongst some of the guests from my original podcast, Fantasy Insanity. So it was really fun. We all chipped in just a couple bucks and we played it out, and it was really, really cool. I had a lot of fun with it. And so when Scott said, do you have any ideas? I was like, yes, I do. I can run these Eliminators, one celebrity, and then at the time it was 16. Now it's 17 because we got an extra week in the NFL season. But 16 people sign up, donate some money to play against them. Back then we had cash prizes. The fact that I did that, I was so dumb. We gave out a first
so naive.
We gave out a first place prize and a second place prize. So I was tracking people down to give them their $10 for their second place prize.
That's great.
That was such a nightmare. I think I stopped giving out. I think cash prizes went away last year or the year before. Might have been the year before.
It was
it's so much better. Nobody cares. Nobody ever did care. Even
not why you did. That's not why we do it.
So people were like, I'll just donate it anyways most of the time. I'm like,
I love the sticker. That's a great idea. The sticker winner. That's all I want. I have a sticker wall, as you've seen. All I wanted last year, I didn't really care the years before.
Did you win a league?
I did. And I was so excited to win. Sticker. I was like, this is so worth it to me. I've got a sticker for my wall. It's so
nobody else got those. The only people that get them are the champion. You have to win.
That's what makes it worth it right there.
I can't display one. I did not win any last year, so I did not get to display the
Maybe you'll get lucky this year. You never know.
Maybe. I'm hoping.
It is a lot of luck.
Maybe I'll get skilled. It's definitely not luck. It's definitely not luck. 100% skill the Eliminators are.
Sure.
For those that don't know what the Eliminators are.
Talk about the
Eliminators. I guess I
think that would be good.
That's what they are. We kind of jumped in the middle of the conversation there. So the Fantasy Cares Eliminators, that's what I run this time of year. And there's a sign up on scottfishbowl.com. Easiest way to find the link is just go to my Twitter. It's in my pinned tweet right now. you will see a drop-down menu with all kinds of names in fantasy football. You'll see Dynasty Junkies on the list. You'll see Andrew Hull FF on the list.
That's
right. Just there's so many people. Heath Cummings is always on there because he
Friend of the show.
Just keep filling them.
He's been on.
Ryan McDowell, his name is always on there because he says,
never heard of him.
Just keep filling them. Currently, just looking at the list, Mike Wright's got 2 spots left. By the time this posts, those will probably be gone. Or you guys stream this live, don't you? So
we do. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, there's big names. There's names that people are less familiar with, but should learn. So I always recommend, if you want to learn new people in the fantasy industry, sign up for the random ones. Just select random and I'll slot you in somewhere. It's always cool because people end up, making a connection then with somebody they didn't know before, and then they find a new show to listen to or a new article series to read or something like that. So it's really, really cool. Yeah. All the money goes to charity. So right now there's a league safe open to basically make your donation. And then come October, I don't know what I set the date for, late in October, right before November, when we start doing the Fantasy Cares Toys for Tots shopping, like I'll just pull all the money out and we'll go to a big old Toys for Tots shopping drive. Some of the money's also going to go to Go Pantry. That's a food bank local to me. And then celebrities, if they want to post something that they're passionate about seeing supported, can also post what they want supported. So I know Heath Cummings does a lot for a food bank that he supports. And so all of his leagues will have that posted with it, and people can donate there as well.
I love it.
It's a lot easier than trying to collect a bunch of collection fees via PayPal, Venmo, all that stuff.
Absolutely.
This is my favorite. I love this idea, like having League Safe involved and being a place where people can donate their League Safe winnings if they have any, but then also putting like the Go Pantry or whatever you want. Just donate something. That's the whole point of this, right?
Yeah.
The whole point of
that's
FC Cares.
Stolen, obviously, from Scott for SFB.
Well, not stolen, just borrowed, like loaned. He's loaning it to this whole thing. Like this is really the start in a way of Scott Fishbowl season, right? Like this is when these drafts kind of kick off that type of summer vibe, right? Where it's like we're all trying to donate some money. And I think honestly, like the Fantasy Cares Eliminators are one of those things that I remember very dearly. I played in my first one, I think was 4 years ago, and Tags was the one that I picked.
Oh man.
Right. And it was the one I was like, Tags was the one fantasy analyst. I was like, that's the guy I got to be in a league with. Yeah. And so this year I'm obviously doing another to benefit Tags. And it's the one that Joe Pisa is doing because I love Joe. He's been on the show too. I love Joe too. But it's that was the one guy I'm like, if I could pick any fantasy analyst to play with, that's the guy I want to play with. And he was available. And I was like, hell yeah. And I love that about this because you can literally get in a DM group with these guys, right? You can get a front row seat to Mike Wright of the Fantasy Footballers. You can get a front row seat to, I don't know, Travis May or Andy Behrens or like Chris Harris, like who's going to be on the podcast in a couple of weeks. Like it's crazy to me how like you can get connection to these people that you kind of, I wouldn't say idolize, that gets to be a little bit big, but that you've listened to for years, And it's like a really easy, fun way to kind of get to know these people. And then also you're in this chat with other fans of that person. So you end up making a bunch of new connections and it's such a good time. It's for a great cause. It's $10, it's who cares? It's going to charity. It's going to a great place. So I'm so excited to be a part of putting it together this year. I'm really thankful to you, John, for letting me be a part of it. Hopefully I don't screw it up and lose my chance by next year, but you never know. We got time.
You're fine. I appreciate the help. We needed it.
Well, but again,
Tags was literally just, he was, he was one of the first people that when I approached people to do this in 2017, I joined Twitter like in 2016 or something like that. So like nobody knew who I was. And not that I'm known by anybody now. I'm known by a little bit of people in this small little, tiny little corner of Dynasty Twitter. Like that's it. But like I definitely didn't have anybody knowing me back then. And so I just was like messaging these people like, hey, I'm trying to raise a little bit of money for Fantasy Cares, this thing that Scott does. We want to get a little more money for the Toys for Tots drive, which, everybody was kind of aware of that already from previous years. So obviously I had a little credence going into it, but Tags was awesome. Like he immediately jumped into it. And then as the years went by, like I was like, man, your eliminator filled up like super fast. Like, you want to do a second one? He's like, sure, of course. Well, and then I'm not kidding. Last year, which, I mean, it's sad as hell. Like, I love talking about the impact that he had on the Eliminators, but it also is just, it's horrible. Last year he literally said, like, just keep filling them too. Like, just keep filling them. And I mean, he's not somebody that would just like ignore his chat, like you said. Like, he got in there, and I mean, he loved talking fantasy football. He straight up loved it. People would ask him questions just constantly, like throughout the year. Like, people would come in and post like a trade question or something like that, and he'd reply. Like, that's definitely not expected of anybody. But I mean, like, Mike he was awesome about it. And every single year people told me, you know, like, oh my gosh, I never expected that. Like, I didn't know I was going to get that kind of experience. And like, you're getting like counseling for your fantasy football from like Mike Dagliere. Like, that's awesome. Like, that's just, I mean, he was so awesome. I'm literally wearing,
I know, right?
His primer shirt right now.
I almost called you out. I'm like, you're wearing the tag shirt. I was looking it up because while you were talking, I was looking it up because I was curious. It was 2018. I joined my first Fantasy Cares Eliminator, which was Z Fantasy Cares Eliminator Tags 2. I was in that second one. I scored the highest score first week and then was eliminated in week 2. And that was probably my most active DM chat that whole year. I can't look it up it doesn't go back that far maybe, but I remember thinking all year long, like, I lost and it didn't matter. It was so much fun to be a part of that. Yeah. And that's what I love about these.
The people that play in these, the participants as well. I mean, like, everybody's look, we're doing a bunch of drafts in May. And it's not even dynasty drafts. Like,
there's no other way around it.
These are people that just like wake up in the morning and think, what am I on the clock somewhere yet? Like, I mean, their first thing they do is check to see if they got any trades offers, any on the clock alerts. Like, the people playing in these, it's so much fun. And really, you get way more out of the chats than and those are just a bonus. Like, even when I initially set these up, nobody knew that was part of it. Like, I won't forget, like, setting those up, and then all of a sudden people are in like DMs with these people, and they're like, oh my God, like, I wasn't expecting that. I think people probably kind of expect it now, but it's still surprising to a lot of people because so many people are like, I mean, the people that we all listen to, they're just people. They're just a lot of them are fantasy football junkies just like us. So like, they enjoy playing, and there's so many of them that are just so great and so supportive of it. Tags was awesome. I love that we get to run some this year and, benefit his family. So for those that don't know, there are, I think there's still one or two. I know Derek's was almost full, and Andrew's had some more to go. But they're listed on the sign up sheet as Tags benefit. And then it's got the Fantasy Pros person that is stepping in to kind of be the celeb of a Tags league, and all the donations for those ones are being directed to his family. So
well deserved too. And again, I don't want to hijack the whole thing on this, but I feel like this is the perfect time of year to bring you on and like to have you on to like talk about these, because even if you're listening to this on podcast form next week, 2 months, whatever, take a look at it. Go to the hashtag FC Eliminator. Just look at all the people connecting over this. Right. Even if you're not in one, try to figure out if you can get one next year. There's going to be a bunch of these. I know a bunch of people do them. Obviously, we have one for the Dynasty Junkies. If you want to sign up for us, obviously, me, Scott, and Rocky Wall co-own or co-manage team, which will be hilarious. I can't wait for that.
It worked out great last year, didn't it, Rocky?
He's not here, so we can blame him. But
that can be very fun in the chats too, because sometimes the discussion over a pick of a co or try-managed team is openly discussed.
We're gonna crowdsource it.
Well, I can already
folks have some entertaining history, I believe, in some of their league chats for these, as Shane and Sipes and Jeremy are trying to.
Oh yes.
Well, I can already tell you that it's going to be you and me against Rocky, because you and me are very similar, Scott, on what we draft. Like, I feel like you and I are on the same page of value and like what's going to expand and what's going to be tradable.
Rocky's the exact opposite.
Right. And he's like team old QB and all this. So it's going to be entertaining. So if you want to have fun, and you're not joined one up, like not in one yet, or even you're already in 30, who cares? Join another one, right? So like, come on, put us down, go find the link. It's on all of our you can find it on our Dynasty Junkies handle. You can find it on mine. I'm sure it's on Scott's. We'll put it out there a bunch after this. So yeah, no, I'm really just looking forward to having you on here, John, and talking about that. But also we want to talk about Dynasty stuff too, right? We got some things to get into. I know, John, I know you're big in Dynasty, and I know you've been doing Dynasty for a while. So maybe that's the first question I have for you is how long have you been playing Dynasty? Just so people can get an idea, since this is your first time on the Junkies.
I can look that up. I believe 2016 was my introduction to Dynasty. Yep, 2016, which coincidentally, Andrew, you'll totally remember the what set me on the pathway to going further into fantasy football. I was late one night and I was watching this Bengals Steelers game, and this effing idiot that I already didn't want on the team was still on the team, even though he had multiple times been a complete idiot. And he went full blow up idiot on the field and cost the Bengals a playoff game against the Steelers.
Chris Henry?
I remember. No.
Montez, perfect.
Oh, perfect. Yes, of course.
Playoffs against the Steelers.
Literally.
Oh, yes.
That was the point where I was like, I'm done with caring about the Bengals. This is stupid. Why did I just watch this game? This game has no effect on me. I'm not playing fantasy football right now because it's immediately at that point I was like, all right, I like fantasy football. I like watching football for fantasy football. I'm gonna go a little bit further into fantasy football, and that's when I started like writing up. Literally that night, I started writing up bylaws for like my first unique league.
Oh, wow!
And
what was that?
It's still running today. It's called my Empire League, is what I called it. I didn't know what an empire was. I didn't know there were actually empire leagues. That was actually already a thing in fantasy football. I had no idea. But what it is, it's basically a multi-pronged league where we play 6 different formats of fantasy football. The same group of people. We play in 6 different formats. So we play like a full season, just a single season redraft league. We play a best ball league. We play a salary cap league, a dynasty league. We play DFS against each other. And we play playoff fantasy against each other. So like,
so cool. You
get points in all these different ways based on how you finish in each format and stuff like that. Literally, I wrote that up that night that the Bengals lost. Like I got the computer out and I started writing up these bylaws because I was like, I want to play more fantasy football, but I also am tired of getting like, second place in fantasy football and it not being worth anything. But if I get second place a bunch in a lot of leagues across like a 5-year span, maybe it'll pay off. It did. Sure enough, it did. That was when I wrote that up. And then as soon as I wrote that up, I started like actually looking up things on like unique fantasy football. Came across this series called Keeping Dynasty Weird, written by a guy named Ryan McDowell. And then I actually I emailed DLF. Like email him this. I was like, hey, can I get some feedback on this? I'm not sure how to even like go about doing something like this. And I think Scott reached out back to me and he's like, oh my gosh, this is like cool. And like, so Scott saw that and he and I are very similar when we see unique leagues that are like, oh my God, there's another person like me. Like that person's crazy. That person's crazy, just like I am. So, I mean, that was when I kind of met Ryan and Scott and started talking to them about stuff. And sure enough, not long after that, I was in Capitalist Pigs as my first Dynasty League ever.
Wow.
I got to participate in the startup of Capitalist Pigs, and boy, howdy.
Now I know why you are how you are.
Yes, it is. There is a reason that I am
in the deep end,
very aggressive player when it comes to fantasy football.
Well, I will say this. I love the way you approach the game as a game and not as a football watching activity. And that's something I've loved about your analysis is always like, this is a board game. This is a really elaborate, weird board game without a board.
It's a strategy game. It's a strategy game.
It's a game within a game within a game. And that's what we love here on Junkies is that we try to tell people how to play the game within the game within the game, right? Like it's not about valuations. It's like, what is your league value people at? How can you somehow get an advantage over your league mates? And like, how can you do something that zig when everyone else is zagging and all that? So again, like it's odd that you haven't been on by now because you're like just diehard with you. You, me, and Scott are like a brethren that is like dead on, right? Like this is exactly what we all love is the game within the game, right? Within the game.
I really feel like I have been on this show before.
You probably have.
It might have been it might have been in a previous iteration.
Yeah, it was early days with Rocky and Dustin.
It's like the first or second episode.
It was it was with Rocky and Dustin. So
okay,
early days
with me and Scott. That's all I'm saying. Like
okay.
Listen, if it wasn't with us, it doesn't count. That's how it goes.
Dynasty 2.0, new and improved.
But yeah,
that's right.
No, but I mean, John knows this because I've told him before. I messaged him like how when I first got into Dynasty, I thought I was going to start this whole Dynasty Wall Street thing and be Dynasty broker because that was my Twitter handle. People are like, "Why don't you have a cool Twitter handle like everyone else?" And I'm like, "Well, because I had Dynasty Broker." But then I kind of look like a jackass, so I
think that's a good one.
Do it. Well, I still have it. I didn't use it, so I was like, I am a broker. So I was like, all right, this matches my life. This is cool. Whatever. And then I found this, I was like, damn it, I found this podcast. It's already out there. They already do this. And then I listened to it and I was like, oh, these guys are great. And I ended up just being a fan. So, and I still listen to this day. I don't think I've ever missed it. That's one of the very few that I've never missed an episode. So
nice. That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, that's just how it goes. But
Portfolio Dynasty, Scott, that's who you are now.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
It fits. I'm just saying.
Hey, just you never know where life will take you.
That's right.
So you know what, as a crazy commissioner that you are, John, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
We had a pretty wild dispute in a league where the rookie draft came to a conclusion. The waivers were already just set to run weekly on Thursdays or whatever the designated day was.
Mm-hmm.
And they wouldn't start until, the draft ended, right? So waivers didn't run. Okay. But the draft concluded on a Wednesday evening.
They ran
and
Thursday
so what
morning.
happened was waivers ran Thursday morning.
Yeah.
Well, a couple managers made some claims and got their players. A couple managers had no idea waivers were going to run. So my question is, I guess the people who obviously missed out were upset, but I feel like, hey, if I missed it, I missed it. Like it's my responsibility to know when the waivers run. This is a league that I'm in. I'm a member of the league. I need to know the rules. Like, is it ideal? No, it's not ideal, but hey, that's how it works. Every league's different. Who knows when it's going to go, but is that not how the NFL works? I mean, the draft concludes and then what happens? Boom, boom, undrafted free agent. Boom, boom. It's happening like constant. So, I mean, hey.
No. They have to wait until make sure everybody else knows that the UDFAs are now available.
Yeah. Oh, right? Yeah.
Oh, no. That's not how it works.
No, exactly. So my question is it the commissioner's responsibility to announce that waivers are going to run and make sure everyone gets their claims in, or is it the members of the league's responsibility to know the rules of their league?
So it's the commissioner's responsibility to define it in the bylaws, which I assume it was.
It wasn't a new league. This is an existing league. It's not new. It's done this every year.
I mean, like in all the bylaws, the waivers should be defined. And part of that definition is, are there off-season waivers? If so, when do they run? And it's probably defined as from the time the draft ends until preseason, when it goes from being weekly to being like daily or whenever. There's probably a change as the season begins. But if it's once a week in the off season, it's once a week in the off season. That's probably defined in the bylaws. It should be. If it's not, then it probably is a little bit on the commissioner. But if it is defined,
well,
learn your rules, people. My favorite gif.
Oh,
Dwight Schrute, learn your rules. Now, would it have been nice if the commissioner would have said, by the way, draft is over. We're moving on to the next phase. Waivers will run tomorrow. Or the commissioner could have said, okay, so the draft just ended.
Maybe we should push it a week
to run, but I'm going to go ahead and delay it until next week.
I personally feel like the commissioner didn't even realize that it was going to happen.
Probably not.
And here's the other thing that, and we don't have to go down this whole path because everyone already knows how much I hate Sleeper, but this was a Sleeper league. And so we don't have that sort of like, here's a link to the rules, and let me check the calendar, and it's just Sleeper. That's just how it works. And so, like, again, another reason I hate Sleeper. Just add it to the list, but
it's free. It's free, and look at all the
okay, hold on, wait,
and look how easy it makes your league be.
It's free, but I promise you, just go into a Sleeper league you're in, go into the chat and type in a product name or something, and then go on your Facebook.
For sure, 100%.
Just go ahead. Just something you've never put in your phone before. No, don't say it out loud. None of that crazy stuff.
You could probably just say it out loud while you have the app open.
No, you don't.
You're going to get the ad still.
just type it in there. Boom, it happened. Yeah, we did it back to back last night. It was absolutely hilarious. But
I mean, they're making you money somewhere. You gave away your right to privacy when you checked.
No doubt.
Hang on, I want to jump in because this is perfect that you bring this up. My home league, I'm the co-commissioner because no one else gives a crap, and I'm in 12 Dynasty leagues or whatever, and all these guys are like, "What?" So I'm like, "Hey, I'll take over. It's fine. I'll help with the real." My buddy Bill is the commissioner. So we ended up, we set up the draft to run, or the waivers to run on Wednesday night, Thursday morning. Right? Like you can set that up in Sleeper. All was well. The draft ended, I believe, and it was, it's a slow draft. And the draft started early June because all these guys are home league guys. None of them are hardcore. So it started early June. It ended, I'm not kidding. It ended on a Thursday night, right? Thursday night at 11:30 is when the draft ended. Waivers ran Thursday night into Friday morning, which was never selected, never chosen,
That's
never
how
anything.
Sleeper does it. As soon as that draft ends, it's like, boom,
Waivers run.
We're in.
And I was like, we did not select that. We said Wednesdays. It was set up for Wednesdays. I went in and looked the next morning. It was Wednesdays. Only 2 people had put in waivers because they were like, well, I'll just do it now while I'm thinking about it. Yeah. The rest of us were asleep because it was 11:30 and I go to bed at like 9:30 or 10 most nights because, I'm an early morning guy. So it was like, a lot of people were like, what the hell do we do? So I'm like, well, obviously we undo all of that. It's not a big deal. But it does release some information into the wild that you can't undo. So there were some butthurt people in my home league, and I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. Sleeper fucked up. Like I don't know what else to say.
That's my question then. So once it happens, it's over. You can't reverse it. So who do you punish? The people that followed the rules, or the people
it's not that people didn't follow the rules? They just submitted their waiver claims.
In that case, it didn't. But in my case, it did. The people that followed the rules, we made our claims, and it was done. I mean, So why should I be punished?
No, I'm not punished. I mean, it is the responsibility of every manager to know how everything in their league works, whether it be the rules, the settings, the site. It's not necessarily fun, but I sure as hell am not putting that on commissioner to babysit somebody else to teach them how to use. That's on the manager.
So what we ended up doing was we just
my leagues. You'll come to find that I don't babysit.
My favorite message ever is when I ask a question and John just posts a screenshot to the rules, and I'm just like, "Yep, you're right. I should have read the rules." And so honestly, there have been ever since that first time in Fog of War, John. I'm like, let me go read those rules real hard because I don't want to get called out in chat. And I'll tell you what, 98% of my questions are answered in the rules because that's why they're in the rules.
When people ask a question and I know the answer,
dude,
I know where to go.
I have them printed out. I have them printed out.
Well, do not print the internet.
No, I'm not printing the internet. No, but
I printed the internet.
It's a good idea. And John Leagues, it's necessary. I agree.
I had to because I got too confused between.
I don't blame you.
Kitchen sink and risky business and
kitchen sink is driving me bonkers. So I'm
welcome. Everything is fine.
Yeah, when you join a bunch of salary cap leagues, salary cap leagues are a different animal altogether. They're easily my favorite kind of league. I mean, if I could play nothing but salary cap leagues, I would get rid of all my other dynasty leagues. But they're so much harder to run depending on how it's set up. But like the way I set mine up, which I think are really challenging and fun, they're kind of a bear to run.
I bet.
Yeah, imagine.
And you can't do them on Sleeper. Speaking of Sleeper, you really can't do that on Sleeper. So you got to do those on MFL. And I want to say this to kind of tie it back in together. That tags league, that FCE league in 2018 was my first real MFL experience. And so that was when I was like, you know what? I'm going to try this MFL thing out. I want to see how it's going. And I'll be honest, and I think this is entirely rational for everybody listening. I hated it. It was the worst. Yeah. Now I've come around. It's the best. I don't hate Sleeper yet, I don't mind it, but it's so much easier to do stuff in MFL once you figure it out. It's like, oh, this is the best part of the whole thing. So I thought it would be fun to tie that around.
In the chat that's like, how do I make a draft pick? I can't make the draft pick. And I'm like, so 4 owners draft. That's literally the steps. Or right on the, like, I do my best, and I will always take feedback on what I can do better in FCE to make it so that everything you need is literally right there on the homepage. Like, you should not have to do anything but click on the homepage of FCE. That is the only thing you should have to go to. You can go to other things if you want to find out, like the settings and the scoring and all that. That's all readily available. I do tell everybody, like, if you want information, that's under reports. If you want to perform an action like draft, trade, cut, things like that, that is under for owner. Like, that's your action tab, everything you do. And then reports is everything you want information wise. But so it's like,
I agree.
I can't draft. I'm right. And I'm like, okay, send me a screenshot. This is my go-to. You'll know that whenever you see me say, send me a screenshot or a screen recording, you just know that I know that you're screwing it up. It's user error. 100%.
I want you to show me how you're screwing it up.
Oh yeah,
times.
I've been there.
I want you to prove to everybody that it's you screwing it up. So if I ask you for a screenshot of something or a video of it, just know about 99% of the time when I request that, you know what happens? Oh, it worked this time.
Hang on. I will attest to that. John, yesterday you asked me for a screenshot. I sent it to you, and guess what? It worked. It was brilliant. It was brilliant. It works every time. Yep.
Because guess what? Then people have to actually, like, they don't want to, like, record themselves doing something that's completely wrong. So you know what they do? They actually, like, read the instructions on something. So this guy did send a screenshot, and I'm like, well, you're not linked to the league. So, like, I said, all right, let's go back a step. Send me a screenshot of the email so that I can make sure, like, that you linked from. And he's like, well, I never got a link. So of course he sent the screenshot. I, of course, then take a screenshot of his screenshot, circle with a real big red circle, the word link, literally says link on this email. The email, like, we've all seen the NFL email link. Like, it's not even a lot. It's like 2 lines right now. And then there's like a line of code, and it says, click to link. You may have to copy and paste in your browser. Like, that's all it says.
That's it.
Guess what? He was quickly in that league and made his draft pick. And I'm like, oh my God.
Figure.
Like, so, but NFL is not user friendly. That's always the complaint I get. And I'm like,
hang on,
dude, you didn't read it. Like,
I want to defend.
I've never read
this. It isn't user friendly until you understand the language it's talking to you in. And then once you understand the language,
English.
It's more like text-based menus as opposed to pretty pictures. That's the whole difference. People are used to pretty pictures. Once you understand it's text-based,
franchise.
I know that.
Oh, trust me, you're going to see a lot more of this over the next 2 weeks.
I'm excited, but at the same time, you're entirely right. It is in the email. I'm saying more like MFL. When you first log in, you're like, "What the hell is this crap?" But then after you understand the language and you kind of like are in the same page, you're like, "Oh, I get exactly where to go for this." And that's why I think over the years I was much more like ESPN, Yahoo, Sleeper, whatever. And the more years I do this, I'm like, and MFL is the best by far. Like, it just, as you get to know it, it's like, this is much easier for everybody. Like, it just simplifies the whole process. But not everybody is there yet. Most of the people listening to this are junkies, and they're probably there. But it's still like, you know.
And I actually don't have anything against. I have nothing against any other site. It's just when people tell me that, like, MFL doesn't work, and I'm like, okay, well, do me a favor. Like, go try and set up an Eliminator. Go try and set up anything that I run.
Anything other than
anywhere else.
Oh my God!
Like, trust me, I tried to run some of my leagues on Yahoo for the first couple of years. It was a nightmare.
I bet.
And I was like, okay, we're just gonna pay the $5 per manager, and we're paying for MFL. Because if you don't think that my time is worth your $5, like, the amount of time I was trying to track stuff offline using Yahoo, which is fantastic for redraft, did not work for a salary cap league. Like, I mean, there's just, they are what they are. But I do understand that I draw the Fantasy Cares Eliminators draw a lot of new eyes.
Yes.
To my fantasy league. So that's why I seriously do try to go out of my way to make sure that, like, this is going to be the first. I know I'm going to get about 25% of the people that are participating this year are brand new and have never seen MFL.
Yep.
So my goal is to make it so they can, all they have to do is click, a couple of clicks. Like they don't have to go searching for anything. So for the Eliminators, everything should be there right on the homepage. It's so easy. It shows you the draft report.
Right.
All you have to do is click. I wish it didn't say pre-draft picks when you're on the clock. I wish it's the draft, but like click that link and see what happens, people. Guess what? You draft.
Yeah. See what happens. What's the worst that could happen?
Get your pre-draft for when you're on the clock, and you're on the clock right now, so it works out.
Yeah.
I wish it said draft.
I want to say this though, just because I think it's kind of interesting. I was invited to a league in 2016. It was a playoff league, like one of those like playoff fantasy leagues. And it was through my wife's work. And somebody said, hey, do you want to join this playoff fantasy league? And I was like, well, I like fantasy football. And this is, again, before I was like really hardcore in Dynasty or anything. And he goes, hey, do you want to play in this fantasy league? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And he sent me the invite. And it went to this. It was the link to my fantasy league. And I clicked on it. And I was like, nope. Like I literally just like, nope. Like I'm not doing it. It was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. Like, I don't know what this is. Like, I didn't care. Yeah. I was like, I don't know what this is. Like, I don't trust this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just, but it's funny to look back on it now and be like, oh, had I known, like that guy was just 3 years ahead of me. You know what I mean? Like he had done this a couple of times and I was like, this is the only place to play playoff fantasy football. Like you can't do it anywhere else.
They also had something called MFL 10s, which was basically like underdog before underdog or, you know, whatever, you know, site you do that on. And so if I look back, the cool thing about MFL is the history. And so like I can go back to the history in all my leagues, all my stuff.
Oh God, were you an MFL junkie when they had MFL 10s?
Oh yeah. So 2017 was my first like significant amount of leagues on here. And it was MFL 10s. And I was like, wow, yeah, this is cool. Like I thought I was like, oh, I'm taking the next step here. I'm bomb.
I remember hearing about them on Sirius XM radio. They were talking about MFL 10s and all this, and I was like, that's too advanced for me. Like I'm not there yet. Now I'm there. Like oh my God, where is it?
Now we just all play it on our phone on Underdog or DraftKings.
So much easier now. Anyway, we've done enough about. I don't want to say we've never done enough. But we've done a lot about commissioning talk, and I honestly, that's what we brought you on for, John. Like this is what we're talking about. But we do want to get into some Dynasty talk for a little bit. I know you might have to go at some point because you've been cross-eyed from setting up these eliminators. So please let us know. But
no, we're fine. We're fine. I drank some caffeine, so I'm good.
Perfect. We're good to go. The one piece of news we have in the show sheet, which I love you put this on here, Scott, is that Tom Brady retires again. Let's talk about this. Hang on. Is Tom Brady a worthy booth analyst right immediately after he leaves the league? I'm not sure. John, what do you think? Is John Brady going to be a good analyst immediately?
Okay, so one,
should he be?
I keep the volume down when I watch football because I really don't care what announcers saying.
Keep it on mute.
Like, I mean,
ain't wrong.
I keep it so low because I literally don't care. But Tom Brady is worth every penny of that because one, Fox is paying it to him.
Yep.
It's not going to hurt them. And he is a draw. So I'm sure people will be like, I want to hear everybody saw what the Mannings did for the Manning cast.
Yeah.
That's the new thing now is
it was fun. Actually, I enjoyed it.
We want to get Tom Brady's insight into the game. We'll pay whatever it takes because you know what? There will be plenty of people that tune in and want to hear what Tom Brady says. So do I think he'll be good at it? I don't know. I don't care. I don't think that matters. I think he will be worth the money.
Great answer. Yep. It doesn't matter. You're right. Yeah. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he's good or not.
It just seems it seems a weird path to me.
What's the matter?
It just seems a weird path, doesn't it? Like you are the GOAT and now you're going to call games. Like you could just go buy a franchise. Like, what are you doing calling games?
He's going to get paid what, like $35 million a year?
He doesn't care about money. You know how much Giselle makes?
He's married to Giselle. Yeah,
I am aware, but $35 million a year that buys you a whole lot more vacations in even I don't know.
Doesn't suck. Yeah.
I don't know. And I'm guessing they're both worth because of their crypto investment. I'm guessing they're both worth way more than we even know they're worth. Like,
oh, no doubt.
Money is not an issue. So I know that, but he does like the game. Like he can't get away from it. And this is the way he'll be able to stay connected, but not be, he's not going to be that announcer that like puts in 40 hours of prep.
No,
like, he's going to show up the night before a game, go out, have a nice big dinner that'll be super healthy with some people, And then he'll show up, he'll do a game, so he'll be around football, and then he goes back home, and like, he will have that time at home, and maybe this time it'll stick.
We hope.
No, not for me. Tom Brady, I love him. The Eliminator scoring, if you didn't notice, I think it's basically it's Tom Brady scoring for Tom Brady. I think Tom Brady's gone 101 in some drafts already, and I'm not surprised by it.
I'm just fed up. I mean, again, I like Tom Brady. Don't get me wrong. I just feel like enough's enough, man. Like, come on.
I can never get
It's
enough.
like when Brett Favre got to the end of his career.
But he's not doing anything like Favre. Favre would be like, it'd be like a show. He'd be like, I'm going to be on my farm. You guys come fly the helicopter down and talk me into playing. You know what I mean? Like, he's never done anything like that. He walked
away, and then it was like 2 weeks later, I actually kind of want to play. So
he put out like one message that was like, yep, it's been a ride. Cool. That was it. There was nothing about it. Like, he's been nothing like Brett Favre. And trust me, I love Brett Favre.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
He's on so many of my teams that I just want to keep raking points in.
Yeah.
Keep giving me that QB.
That's such a Rocky move too.
Yeah, I was gonna say Rocky is too. Yeah.
Rocky's so happy that Brady unretired. Oh my
god. Me
too.
I mean, literally,
half his leagues.
Well, there was one guy I was in a league with who, as soon as Brady retired, he dropped him, and then he unretired, and so he sent a message in the group chat like, "Can I get him back?" Yeah.
Nope.
He's like, "Hey," and the commissioner was like, "No, actually, you dropped him."
Yeah.
Which I don't know why you dropped anybody in February. Like, what are you doing? You don't need roster space,
right?
But he just was like, he retired, like that RIP poor guy out, whatever. Like, but he was like, "No, you can't get him back. Like, it's free for all." He ended up spending pretty much all of his fab and got him back, which I thought was pretty ironic. So really, he didn't drop Brady. He just dropped $800 of his $1,000 worth of fab. But again, I'm like, that was
who didn't spend more than that?
No, because all of us are, and this is going to sound strange, but all of us are kind of like sorry for the guy for dropping him.
Oh, no, I would have went all in and then traded him back to him.
Also, some of us were like, I bid like $568, I think it was, and somebody bid like $663. Like, we're not going to go all in on Tom Brady for fab.
I would have.
I know you would have. But I was like, I'm going to give it a minute. And he bid like 812 or something like that and got Brady. And I was like, all right, at least he got him back, but he lost all of his fab for the year. That was entertaining.
Yeah. I mean,
but no, nobody spent all 1,000 to get Willis is awesome on this. Like, nobody spent all 1,000, which I was kind of shocked by too. I wasn't going to do it.
I would have 100%.
I know you would have, but I was like, no.
I just don't see why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you?
Well, here's why
he's easily worth a first to any contending team. If you're rebuilding, who cares? Just trade him.
I agree with your logic. I just disagree with your premise. Like, if he's worth a first, you're exactly right. Here's my logic. There were 3 or 4 guys in the league that really wanted him, not the whole league. So my thought process was too, if I spend a whole 1,000 on him, I've only got 4 people in the league that are willing to spend what could be that same amount for him. Right. So my thought was, I'm not going to spend the whole thing. If I get him for a discount and can trade him for something, of course that's worth it. But based on the fab, nobody was willing to spend a full 1,000 on him. So in my league, he wasn't worth a full 1,000. That means in my league, he wasn't worth a first. That's all I'm saying. Like, I wanted to get a discount for it. I'm not saying if I had spent a whole 1,000 and nobody was willing to give me a first for him, I'd be livid. I'd be like, damn it, I lost all my fab for it. So again, every league is different. How many times have we talked about this, Scott? This comes up almost every single episode. Every league is unique. In this league, it was it wasn't like it was a $20 league. It wasn't like a big money spender. We were all friends with each other. All of us are kind of like, he's going to spend the most. I don't really want to go and do 1,000 and 1,000 and whatever. There's only one buyer. Like, none of us wanted him. We're all ragging on him in the chat. You know what I mean? Like, the market was nothing. I totally get what you mean. But in this league, it was like, I just don't feel like it's worth it. I'd rather get a discount, and none of us got a discount.
1,000 in a second, maybe that market changes.
So
for sure. Like, in a trade, that's different, but I can't bid 1,000 in a second. You know what I mean? Like,
no, but you got to think in those terms.
I know. I get it. But again, like, this guy that won it was like 812, and now he's at a very big disadvantage going into the league year. And who knows? Honestly, who knows? Elijah Mitchell in that league. Elijah Mitchell was a fab bid. Like, he was drafted and dropped.
How shallow is this league?
It's a 25 roster spot league, so it's not like it's not very deep, which makes it more worth it. But it does seem like redraft. But I'm just saying, like, I'm just trying to get to the point that there is a logic to everything. And my logic was, I'd rather get him for a discount than pay full value. That's all it was. That's all it was. And honestly, who knows it at that time? Who knew if he was going to actually unretire? Maybe he unretires. You know what I mean? Like there was some, you remember this? I'm sure we all do. Like back in, oh no, I'm not retiring. Like who knew what the next 3 days were going to bring? Like maybe he goes, no, never mind. I'm out again. Like there was some uncertainty. I'm just being honest. Like now it looks silly to say, but I'm not going to spend my entire fab on some guy that might retire in March when they draft somebody in April. You know what I mean? Like
people kept Calvin Johnson on rosters for like 3 years.
Oh, I know.
Like
actually, Scott, do you still have Andrew Luck at all? Do you still have Andrew Luck?
No, I finally had to give him up.
Yeah,
I finally had to give him
still
up.
Have Andrew Luck. Exactly.
Don't cut quarterbacks. Don't cut superstars. At least not right away.
I got Luck so hard. Not good. Not good.
I know it's a sensitive topic. But
all right,
that's the news. We're going to move on from the news, even though we really don't do the news, as you put on here, Scott, which is perfect.
That's right. We don't do news.
Didn't Jerry Judy get?
Well, that's kind of newsworthy. Jerry Judy got arrested. We don't know what it means yet.
That's way more important than.
We don't know what it means yet.
Here's the thing that people. So first of all, stop sending me a 2025 12th round rookie pick for him because I don't give a shit. I don't care about that pick for any player on my roster, let alone a guy who's probably not even going to get in trouble. Okay. And second of all, would you take like a 2024 fourth? Because I'm going to offer those out. No, but seriously, like just stop with it's just stupid. I don't have that many shares, so it's really not that annoying for me, but it just happens all the time. Anytime there's some negative story, you get that one jackass in your league that like offers you, the furthest possible out pick that's available in the latest, in the last round of the draft. And it's like, guys, that has zero value, right? I don't even care about 2025, not even the 2025 first. I don't care about right now. So I just don't be that guy in your league. Seriously, don't.
I will agree. Don't be that person, but, I will also say then occasionally I see a transaction email and I'm like, son of a bitch.
I get it, but
what? Like I wouldn't even have offered that. Why would somebody even offer that? Not only that, why would somebody offer it, but why would somebody accept it? Like somebody accept it. Oh my God,
person who accepted should have been shopping them.
Like,
that's on them.
That's on them. Should I be sending these terrible offers so that I'm on the other side of it? And then I'm like,
okay,
no, it's just not worth it. Because even on like the 1% or the 0.1% chance, like I don't want to spend the other 999 offers is not worth it to get that one that does go through. So no,
well, I want to talk about this for a second because you bring up a good point. I in my career as a dynasty manager, which is 4 years strong at this point, not that crazy, I have sent more bad offers than good offers. And I feel like this isn't necessarily an indictment of who I am as a person, but more like, have you not been on Twitter and seen some of the crazy crap that people get? So it's like part of me is like, I don't mind sending a crappy offer. And then I get that laughing emoji kind of response on DMs. And I'm just like, man, listen, are you not on Twitter and see what people are paying for stuff? Like, I might as well try. Like, and then they're like, well, that's the most ridiculous offer ever. And I'm going to roast you. I'm like, dude, listen, I'm not trying to insult your intelligence. I'm not calling your mother ugly. I'm just saying, like, here's my first offer. And also, it's a starting point of a negotiation, right? Like, why would I send my best offer first? Granted, there are some leagues I do that where I feel like we've lost this negotiation tactic. But why not send a shitty offer and like get it across the board and see like here's where we're going? Yes, sometimes it can be
we're
bad.
not going anywhere from that.
Right.
Unless, and I'm going to bring this up right now because we're in it. If you're on the clock, if you are on the clock in a rookie draft, send an offer. If you want that pick, send an offer they can't refuse. Okay. Yeah. If you want that pick, send an offer they can't refuse. Don't send 2 future fourths for a 202. Okay, nobody's taking that. Even if they don't even like the players in this draft, no one's taking that. So don't do it. But I'm telling you, so many times people get frustrated because what I kept doing, and I mean honestly, I almost feel bad, but it's like when I have 25 rookie drafts going on, I'm not going to decline 17 offers every time I'm on the clock when you offer me a next year's fourth for my second round pick.
You don't have to, Scott.
So I don't. I ignore it and I just make my pick.
Yes.
But the problem is then people get pissed off. Oh, this guy doesn't read it. I don't want to lose future trade partners. I don't want to lose the relationships in the league. But at the same time, I'm sorry. Don't offer me that shit. And guess what? There are times where, because Rocky can attest, I forget which league it was. One of them that he runs, I made an offer to somebody that was on the clock, and he smashed accept because he could not refuse because I wanted that pick. So I made him a good offer. So that's how it works. If you want the pick that's on the clock, make a good offer.
Hang on. I will say, yes, you're right. If you want something, go make a good offer. And I'm not saying on the clock, there's no ticking clock, right? Like you're talking about Jerry Jeudy for like a 25 first or something, right?
Yeah, no, I'm saying rookie drafts specifically.
I know. I'm saying more like in my head, and John is probably going to disagree with this because you guys and myself too, who are in a bunch of leagues, this is where it gets to be a fine line. You have to kind of know your league a little bit here. You can't just send crap offers to everybody. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there's nothing wrong with sending a bad offer and getting a bad counter that goes, no, I'm countering. I'm done. I'm rejecting. No counter. You don't have to send like no counter. Like, no, of course not. It was a crappy offer. You know this, right? What I'm saying is we all are on Twitter all the time. I can't tell you how many times I'm in DM threads or I'm seeing it on Twitter where somebody gets a trade done and I'm like, why am I not sending that? Like if there's even 1 out of 12 chance, like why not send that offer? Right. And then I get a DM from a guy that's like, what are you, a fucking moron? Why would I take that offer? And I'm like, I'm not a moron. I'm just saying, here's my Twitter thread that I just saw this thing happen. You're too smart. Great. I'm not trying to be insulting to you. I'm just saying 1 out of 12 might do it. And at some point, it's like, I'm not trying to like waste your time. I'm not trying to like, I don't know that you're in 45 leagues. Right now, granted with you, I do. And this is what I'm saying. Like when you get to know your owners, there are definitely some managers that are like, I'm not bullshitting with you. I'm not taking this. I'm not doing that. Right. And that's fine. And they just flat out reject, but you can't be upset when they flat out reject. That's the catch. And I've been on the other side of this where somebody sends me a crappy offer and I flat out reject and they're like, no counter. And I'm like, you sent a crappy offer. Like, why would I counter? You know what I mean? Like what that's, I get what you're doing. Like send it to everybody. That's fine. I'm not falling for it. Like, I'm not going to get upset about it. So it's kind of like, it goes both ways. Right. For me, anyway, it goes both ways. Like, I don't mind sending crappy offers, but it means I can't be upset about receiving crappy offers because Twitter is proof that crappy offers get accepted every gosh darn day. And I'm like, if I could get Sutton for 223 first, you're saying I wouldn't send that offer? I don't mind getting laughed at, but if it gets accepted, I'm walking all the way to the bank. You know what I'm saying? Like, are you kidding me right now? Like,
a lot of times that is my response. Like, if I have the time or care enough, is I will just send a screenshot of like the DLF trade finder. And I'm like, the reason I sent you this is because
same here.
This is what I'm seeing here. Or the reason I sent you this is because in one of my other leagues, this trade just happened. So I was like, well, shit, I'm going to see if I can do that too. So I am definitely with you there. I'm on the same page as far as that goes. If I'm basing it off of something else that's happening across my other leagues, which is something I really want to get into overall. Like, we're gonna have to do that next week because I want to bring.
Yeah, we're already at almost an hour. Can you believe?
Yeah, I'm gonna bring some data too.
On the trade.
No, please do, John. Please do.
Go ahead, John.
I know you have an opinion.
Just send your best offer, and if they reject it, then it's over. Literally, that's it. I don't know. You said we're losing this whole negotiating thing. Fuck the whole negotiating thing. It doesn't fucking matter.
Hang on.
Just send an offer. If somebody wants it, they'll say yes. If they don't, then they can delete it. They can reject it. They can leave it there. I don't give a shit what they do with it. If they don't like my offer and they don't want to
yes, you do. If you send an offer that is ludicrous and they accept it, isn't there a logic part of your brain that goes, I could have sent less? Right? It's like, isn't it? I'd rather send less than more. I'm just being honest. Like, as a value dynasty player,
if I get what I if I get what I want, I'm fine. I don't.
Oh, sure.
I only expect my first offer to be accepted because guess what? When they counter, I'm like, no, I sent you what I felt good with.
Right. And this is what I'm saying.
I don't even have to look at your counter because I don't care.
This is what I'm saying. I agree with you 100%. That's one way to play it. It's not a right or wrong way. It's not like
I'm right or wrong. It's rare.
Yes. And even then, let's say
freaking refreshing when other people do that way.
Oh, I don't blame you, but at the same time,
I'm like, okay.
I know I'm not sending John Bosch a crappy offer, right? I'm sending ABC123 on Twitter, who I don't know, a crappy offer. Like I'm saying, like I don't know this person
differently though.
Because
like, why do you assume they might be an idiot? That's what
John.
Me. Like,
hang on, were we not just talking about how many stupid people talk to you about rules and leagues? You know more stupid people than I've ever met. Like, of course there are stupid people out there. I'm just saying.
Doesn't mean I'm gonna act like they're stupid. It's not worth my time to find out whether they're stupid or not. It's just not. Like, I don't care. I mean, ultimately,
I know you don't.
Somebody got screwed email. It's like, oh man, I should have done that. But then I actually think about it and I'm like, God, I would have to sit there and send out so many shitty offers to get one to go through. Like, how is that? How is the return?
It's a lot more work.
It's not. It's a terrible ROI.
That's
a lot more work.
Waivers. Like, I've gotten so lazy in my Dynasty playing habits. And guess what? Doesn't change the outcome of anything. I don't care that you just got that 4th string running back. And if 3 guys get hurt in front of him, he's going to be the starter. And then you're going to drop him the next week. Like, there was an injury at the wide receiver, and this guy's got a good matchup against a safety that's hurt. I don't care.
Aren't you talking about how stupid managers are, though? You're like literally like lining up for the same point that I'm trying to make. Like, there are literally, let's say.
No, those people are insane. Those people that do waivers like that, they're not stupid.
This is what I'm saying. Let's say in a 12 team league, in a standard 12-team league, let's assume 6 of the managers are smart and all 3 of us are in that 6, right? And then I'm like, listen, I'm going to send an offer that's a little low ball for these other guys just to see what happens.
Why?
And guess what? Because here's why. If I send an offer and they respond back with that was the most absurd offer in my entire life, I'm like, great, you weren't going to trade it for me anyway. And I've now learned something about you for future trades. That's the way I put it.
But you're not going to get like what any offer you've ever sent me. Do you get any response other than delete or reject?
No, but here's the bonus.
See,
here's where I go with
that's
this.
Another thing. You should never.
If you're really smart, you never
people.
respond. Exactly. You never counter. You never show your cards. This is what I'm saying. So if we're looking at this, like there are 6 owners that are not as smart as us, but of those 6, all 6 of them counter with some sort of upset message. Guess what? They're still not as smart as us. Right. This is where I'm going with this. Like you can literally.
I don't think I'm smarter than anybody. That's the thing.
No. I'm not saying you are. None of us are. Honestly, Scott and I are the first to say we're not great at this. We just do it for fun. And I'm saying I have fun with trading more than I have fun with drafting. I have fun with trading and I like crafting trades that make sense for both sides. Which is worse to you? Sending a trade that is a very fair trade, but you pay a little more, but then or spending 3 hours on a trade that is very fair that they smash decline. Like it's almost worse to me to spend time building a trade that's fair that they go, this is ridiculous. There's no way that's fair. And I'm like, what did I do all that work for? Like, I might as well not do any work. Like, let's just throw shit against the wall and see what
now
sticks.
You got it. Don't do any work.
Bingo. So I'm saying, like, I might as well send one first or 3 first and see if they say what they respond with.
Why would you do any work?
Because to build a good trade, you have to do work, John. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yes, you do. Buttons and hit send. Be like,
how much work is it to send a bad trade then? It's the same amount of work.
Correct. It is the same amount to send a good or a bad trade. But if you actually want to get something accomplished, it needs to be one that is valuable to the other person. Send them a good player to get a good player. Like,
I agree with that. No, I agree with that. I'm saying I'd rather spend time sending 3 crappy offers than building 1 perfect offer. That's all I'm saying. I'd rather spend time sending 3 crappy offers and having 3 managers respond with whatever the hell they're responding with. Because to be honest with you, I've had trades accepted, one of those 3, and I'm like, well, then I'm glad I didn't do any work. I'm saying, like, just being honest, like it ends up working out more often than not. That's all I'm saying. I've done the logic on this. I know, Scott, you do a lot of trades. How do you tend to build a trade? Do you tend to build a trade that's fair for both people and like the perfect trade? Or do you tend to just send something and see what they say?
So the vast majority of my trades are based on I see something happen somewhere and I go, I like that value, and I go into 10 of my leagues and I just send it out randomly.
I can exploit that, right?
Yeah. That's I mean, other than rookie drafts, rookie drafts is when I'm getting
rookie drafts are very different. Yep.
But otherwise during, season or non-point scoring season outside of the draft, that's typically how I'm doing it. It's in volume, and it's, I'm targeting a specific player to either move away from or to trade for. So I'm not saying anybody's I'm usually not sitting in a league going like, oh, let me like look at all the roster. Frankly, I don't care. I
probably should do that, but I'm
telling you, John, listen, you love this game as much as anyone, and I totally get your logic. I know you've been playing it a while. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying you'd be shocked at how many crappy trades get approved. And you're like, I wish I was on the other end of that. So I'm like, well, if that crappy trade's getting approved, I might as well send my own crappy trade. It's less effort. That's what I'm saying. It's worth less effort. I agree with you. It's not worth the effort to build a perfect trade on the first send. That's all I'm saying. all I'm saying.
Not worth the effort to just send out. I don't know. Some people just like trading. You like trading, so I
love trading.
I can't just sit down and go, all right, I want to make trades. Russ does that all the time, and I'm like, how? Like, how is this fun for you? Like, I look at a team, and I'm like, I'm set. My starting lineup's good. I like my depth. I don't need to trade in this league. So like, okay, check that box. I'll look back at it again next year.
But this guy
gets hurt. Okay, now I need to make a trade. Let's go.
Well, you're making a perfect point. And this isn't necessarily a good or bad thing. It's just that's the difference in dynasty managers, right? Yeah. Like some of us just have tons of free time or just love the trading aspect and like playing the value, playing the market and all this, like being a broker, as Scott was saying. Some people are like, I'm good. I don't need to trade at all. And I'm not going to look at that league. And that's fine too. But again, this is where it comes in handy if you can keep notes on stuff and like kind of write things down and be like, hey, John Bosch is in this league. He's not going to accept a crap offer. I know that. Like Bob Gilchrist, not going to accept a crap offer, right? But I'm not going to call him out, but there are plenty of people I'm in leagues with that accept crap offers every freaking day. And I'm like, I want to be on the other end of that. And yes, there is a negative to that because at some point that team gets so bad they might abandon the league and it becomes an orphan. And there's a bigger picture to all of this. But my logic is I want to win this year, every year. That's all I care about. And so like if I can play the Monopoly game, the board game, as best as possible and somehow exploit somebody else and be like, I'll sell you this for more than I paid for it. Why wouldn't I send that offer? That's all I'm saying. It is more effort. It is more work.
I mean, that's what I base my entire playing style on.
Exactly.
It's just, I don't start with, I'm going to start with a bad offer.
Well, again, bad offers are subjective.
Start with a good offer.
Yeah, bad offers are subjective. I start with a good offer. I look at the team. I'm like, hey, you need a running back. I've got receivers. Like I do all of that logic.
With anything that your response is, well, it's a starting point of a negotiation. That means your initial offer was not good.
No, usually I agree with you, but usually I do take into effect something. I'm like, listen, this team is contending. They've got, 4 draft picks in this class. I've got 6 and I'm not contending. I like having more draft picks. Maybe I'll try to trade back. Maybe they want to trade up. That's the logic. And then I send something that is a little bit of an overpay just to see what they say to it. I don't mind if they say, no, there's no way. Then they respond and I can be like, all right, what about this one? I don't mind if I don't get a counter because then I'll send another one and be like, all right, what about this? There have literally been trades I send like 1 for 3 and I literally just remove a whole draft pick and I send it 1 for 2 after they don't counter. I'm like, all right, what about this? And then they're like, okay, that's more fair. I'm like, why not send that first one? It doesn't take that long. Like again, in MFL, clicking boxes, John. This is what we do.
It's easy.
Like it's easy. It's sleeper is actually a lot harder. I hate sleeper trades. It's so annoying. But in MFL, I can be like, click, 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 done. You know what I mean? Like I'm out. Moving on. Yeah. Anyway.
It is easy, but
we've covered it. We've covered it.
A lot of effort to have to go and look up stuff.
Trading is effort.
Find me a trade. Find me a trade. Speaking of trading, let's find me a trade.
Trades, John.
Let's find a trade.
All right.
All right. John's gonna be our. Oh man, that sucks. This is the worst one I've had in like. I'm sorry, Jason, but this one's rough, buddy. So
you want to get into the.
All right, let's do it. Yeah, here I'll talk about this. So Jason Real at our Real People. He is one of our people. I'm in a ton of leagues with Jason. He's an awesome dude. We've had some good chats over the years. So, trying to help him out here. This is a
business trade with him real fast. Like, hopefully it didn't. Okay.
This is a different league. It is a 12-team league. It's currently expanded rosters, which I did look into because I didn't think about that at first. I noticed it was 35, but it is actually 30 during the regular season. So, you got to watch out for that sometimes this time of year. Some of these commissions just open that up. But we're doing start 10. It's not your typical start 10, though, because you have quarterback, 3 running backs, 3 receivers, tight end, 1 flex, and then your super flex. So it is in fact a super flex league. It is PPR scoring. The quarterbacks are devalued a little bit for 4 point per touchdown. And obviously the big difference there is having to start that 3rd running back. That's brutal. That's brutal, frankly. I mean, I bet you look at some of the starting lineups last year and it wasn't pretty.
I mean, so 36 running backs a week.
Yeah,
starting.
I mean,
you're starting like RB 40 and 45 in some places because you don't have a guy
on bye weeks. Holy crap! Like you're lucky to get 5 points. Probably. Like
Jason's in the chat. This is perfect.
What was the? I wonder what the weekly scoring was for the running backs across the league. Yikes!
It's going to be brutal. But I want to pull the team up here because I want to run through this real quick because I think this team, he said this too, and you want to read this while I'm pulling this up?
Yeah, I will read it. And just for some context, they did just complete the rookie draft, so we're obviously not going to be able to give you any advice there.
Yeah.
But okay, so this is an orphan that he took over a couple of years ago. Looks like 2 years ago now, so this is his third season. Been trying to make trades. Seems like I just keep getting worse. Traded a lot with one particular team, and that team has won the league 2 years in a row, and feel like there might be some contention about that with other owners. That's kind of an interesting point. I mean, this is why we want this information from you guys, because that's great info, right? You finished last every year and won 2 games the last 2 years. That's rough. Traded away Cousins and Tannehill, and which I would have too. So I can't blame you there. Trying to pull this team out of the gutter. Yeah, it looks like this team was gutted before you even took it over. So it's tough sometimes to.
Well, a lot of picks. I would say a lot of rookies. You and I, Scott, have a lot of opinions on this rookie quarterback class, and this is maybe the kind of team to dive into some of that because
well, that's the thing too, is I want to talk about the draft and what he did here, and this is the only year in which I've had some trepidation about my strategy overall with these quarterbacks, but at the end of the day, I now feel more conviction than ever about taking I will take Pickett in the first. I don't give a shit. I don't even like him. I don't care if I don't like him because I don't need 11 other people in league to like him. I don't need a league of consensus. Like, this guy's value is going to be insulated for at least a year. I'll be able to flip him, do something decent with him. I mean, there's 2 scenarios that are going to happen, right? Either Trubisky's really good and then Pickett's going to sit, which we know that's not going to happen. And then the other scenario is Trubisky is exactly who we think he is, and then Pickett's going to play. So,
well, I put up the draft. I want to start with the draft. You're exactly right. Like, I want to make sure we talk about this. He took Corral at 107.
I do not like that.
I mean, so Pickett went at 106.
Yeah.
So now once Pickett goes, and I've had to make this decision too, because this is my strategy of using the quarterbacks as the value insulation to build my rosters. And I've done it successfully many, many times. And I've turned rosters around in a year. But it's Corral specifically.
I trust Corral.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't.
You must trust Corral. So
I couldn't do it. So you have bigger balls than I do, because I wouldn't have been able to.
Corral at 107, Willis at 206, Brian Robinson 207, Sam Howell at 212, Keontae Ingram at 307, Jerome Ford at 407, and Jeremy Ruckert at 409. Now, looking at those picks, I don't mind the names. What I mind is some of them anyway, and Corral and Howell a little bit, the draft number beside them. Like, in my mind, that's a little bit of a reach, but I don't hate it. I want to be clear about this. I don't hate it. I think if you're going to go on this kind of mentality, and if you're trying to rebuild your team, Scott, you said this, I think, on last week's episode, I don't mind rebuilding through the QB position. So if you feel like Corral is the guy, if you're dead set on that, this is probably the one draft I think I may ever say value doesn't matter. There is no such thing as consensus value. Everybody is worth $10. And so it's like, who cares? Go get your guy, right? I would have rather done another guy at 107 there. One of the receivers was probably still there. One of the Jameson Williams, or I don't know, like even Wilson or Olave, something like that was probably still there at 107. You might have gotten more. But like you said last week, Scott, sometimes the QBs will inflate value much quicker, and you can flip them for that.
Or at least just won't lose it.
Correct.
And so
I don't hate the logic here. I feel like there were some reaches in general, but I don't mind the thought. And I like
the only thing I would say, Jason, on this is if you ended up getting stuck there and not being able to move around or do anything with that pick and then taking Corral, I get it. But I see you made the pick in 4 minutes. So while your league mates probably like your conviction and kept the draft moving, I don't. I am team slow draft. I will take every minute of an 8-hour clock if I need to make my team better. And I don't give a shit how many times I get tagged or how many DMs I get or whatever. Yes, fuck you. I get the alerts. I know I'm on the clock. I'm making offers. I'm working on it. So this is your time. This is the only single time you can guarantee that every owner is paying attention. Every manager in your league is paying attention during the rookie draft. That is the only one time in the 12 months that you can 100% sure. Now, maybe at the beginning of the season too, right? Because everybody thinks they have a chance or whatever. But some teams are already rebuilding, right? So it is that. But
oh god, he did trade up. I wondered when it said 4 minutes.
He traded up. He went from to get to. He said he went from 1 pick to 7 picks, but he traded a lot to get to the 7 and take Corral. Then I'm guessing. So again, not trying to crap on your team here.
Going on Corral. Then
if that's your conviction, I don't blame you.
Well, I guess his competition, Sam Darnold. So he's got a shot.
Agreed, right? So like, this isn't a bad pick if Corral pays off, but the chances of that are somewhat low. So I don't know if I like the logic on this, like reaching for or trading up to get Corral. I'm not trying to crap on it. If that's your guy, that's your guy. That's fine.
I'm curious my question, you traded up from, Jason, because if it was like, I mean, Willis was there at the 206.
Right.
Corral was going to be there in the late second in this league.
And so what I was actually going to comment on was on a similar vein where, like, looking at the elapsed time.
Yeah, that's what
Soldier of Fortune here. Sam Howell, no time, pick made from pre-draft list means he put Sam Howell in that early. And like, and I love pre-draft lists. I do that all the time when I'm like, it's getting later in the draft. Like, it's fine. I'm not going to trade this. I'll just take one of these guys. But like, in my mind, Sam Howell at the 212 on a pre-draft, like, and there were other options you could have pre-drafted ahead of him. I don't mind Keontae Ingram. Like that, again, even at the 307, I might have held on. I love the Jerome Ford pick. I'm totally on board with that. And I actually really like the Jeremy Ruckert pick. We don't know this league, so I'm not trying to crap
future guys. Yeah, for sure.
Right. But my logic is like the first couple obviously are where you have the most value, but like getting Sam Howell in your pre-draft, I don't know. But again, the logic here
53 seconds to decide on Brian Robinson at the 207 also.
53 seconds, which again, Brian Robinson at 207, I've seen him go that high, but I would rather wait and see what you can trade for. Right.
I like the last half of the draft way more than the first half of this draft.
Well, again, it all depends on how it plays out, right? This isn't a negative thing. It's just more like it's not how. Let's get back to the team for a second. Let's dive into this. So he's got Matt Corral and Sam Darnold both. I kind of dig that in the sense that you had Darnold. I don't mind you getting Corral in the first.
You're guaranteed to have 3/4 of a quarterback at least. Good job.
It's something. Yeah. Hey, you got Jimmy Garoppolo, Sam Howell, Case Keenum, Jordan Love, Trevor Siemian, Tyrod Taylor, Kyle Trask, and Malik Willis. All of those quarterbacks are outside the top 24 in my book. Like you're looking at just hoping you get lightning in a bottle, but I love it on a rebuild taking quarterbacks. I'm on board with this plan.
Yes, agreed.
Right? Hoping somebody gets injured, Buffalo, Case Keenum, maybe Josh Allen gets hurt. God willing, that doesn't happen. But I'm saying like some of these guys could rocket in value in September. So I like the logic you're going for here. Running backs, he's got James Conner, Jerome Ford, Royce Freeman, Myles Gaskin, Keontae Ingram, Marlon Mack, Jerick McKinnon, Jarrett Patterson, Brian Robinson, Larry Roundtree, and Trey Sermon. Again, I feel like James Conner is your best running back. Like, whew, man, that is not a contending roster. And with James Conner, that's where we all kind of targeted in our trades. But receiver, we got Nelson Aguilar, Tyler Boyd, Russell Gage, Rashard Higgins, Curtis Samuel, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra is your wide receiver 1. I don't hate it, but again, that needs some work. So this is a two-year rebuild in my book. Like just looking at this, like it's not a bad thing. Just dig your heels in and figure it out because you've got some pieces, but not a ton. Finishing it up with tight end Gerald Everett, Noah Fant, Brevin Jordan, David Njoku, and Jeremy Ruckert. So again, what you said before, Scott, this is a 35 roster now going down to 30. You've got to cut a couple people. Before I even get into the find me a trade, and maybe this is perfect for you, John, what 2 players on this roster are you cutting?
I can only cut 2.
Let's just say that, yes. For the sake of argument, let's say you only have to cut 2. You can cut more, but you only have to cut 2. Which 2 are you cutting first?
So let's look at quarterbacks that I would be interested in keeping on my roster. And I'm only keeping them because nobody's offering me anything for them.
Sure.
Corral, Darnold, Garoppolo, Howell, I would keep him. Keenum, I don't care about at all. Jordan Love, I mean, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to cut him, so I guess I'm keeping him. Simeon, don't care. Cut him, keep him, do whatever you want with him. Irrelevant. Tyrod Taylor, honestly, fine, keep him. But literally, if you get like a 3rd round pick or a 4th round pick from the Daniel Jones manager, owner. Like take whatever you can get. Kyle Trask, I mean, look, Tampa Bay even kind of came out and said it. He ain't it. So, find the Tom Brady manager. Like, all of these guys that maybe you get a 3rd or a 4th, which you probably invested more than that for Trask.
Well, if it's a takeover an orphan, like he didn't invest anything.
True. He didn't invest anything. So if it's a takeover like that, and you're thinking, how long is this going to take me to rebuild? I'm looking at this roster, and I am fully on board that no roster should take more than 2 years to rebuild. Because one, you should never put yourself in the position to be that bad. This is what you should do with this league. Pay the entry fee for the next 3 years. Pay it now. Honestly.
I don't mind that.
Pay it now, because then you don't have to think about departing the league, and you can solely focus on, look, I'm already paid. That money's gone. I'm now focusing on 2025. Like this, this team's in rough shape. It's rough.
This is going to be an exercise in patience. This whole team is going to take so much patience.
It's not how I build either. So maybe that's just me. I build in Superflex. I build with wide receivers everywhere. I build with wide receivers, but in Superflex, I don't build on quarterbacks that aren't super invested in by their team. In order for me,
that's the challenge with this class.
In order for me to want to spend on quarterbacks in Superflex, they have to have already been spent on by their NFL team, whether with a nice contract or a really nice draft investment. Because guess what? The people that change in the NFL, it's the coach when something's not working. If the new coach comes in and something's not working, then it's the quarterback's fault. So that quarterback is gone and they're starting over with their own guy. That's just how it goes in the NFL. Nobody comes in and inherits a quarterback and then, this is the perfect situation now. It's always, what can we change? And the quarterback is the easiest thing to change in the NFL. That's why a lot of teams do it poorly and just keep doing it over and over and over.
Well, I would argue the running back is the easiest to change.
Well,
let's just be clear. Like running backs are disposable. Like it doesn't matter, right? So
that's
to kind of go on what you were saying and maybe pigtail in a little bit, at least to our trades. And Scott, I want you to go first because yours and mine are pretty similar, but I want you to get into it and then I'll kind of piggyback on that. But if I'm looking at this roster as a rebuild, I love Willis. I love Love. I love Garoppolo because you can trade him for something to the Lance owner. I love having both Darnold and Corral because whoever ends up getting that job is going to have value. Trade him away. Like this is going to be.
How much value do you think they hold?
It does, honestly, I don't know. As of today, it doesn't have much at all.
You think you can get a second?
I bet you can get a second or at least a late first, someone who's contending, who's looking for a QB3 for the starter in Carolina in week 3. It's going to take time. You're not going to have anything until then. And this is where I'm going with this. There are definitely some teams, depending on the rosters, that after 3 weeks are 3-0 and are like, I wasn't expecting to contend, but guess what? I am. And bye weeks are coming and I only have 2 QBs. I see it in every league. That somebody who is undefeated after 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and is heading into buys and they only have 2 QBs, they will overpay for a QB. So again, I'm not saying this is perfect for every league. I'm just saying you almost have to play this perfectly. You have to play this exactly right in order to contend within a year. I'm guessing it's going to take 2 as a minimum. And I love your logic of like paying in the fee and being like, it's going to be a long process. Like this is not going to happen overnight. And you have to wait for kind of what Scott was saying. You have to wait for the values to spike. You have to wait for something to change. You have to wait for some news to come out where, I don't know, a blurb comes out in June. Marlon Mack is the starter over Pierce. Trade Marlon Mack. Jerick McKinnon just got cut by the Chiefs, but he got signed by the Bucs because Fournette got hurt. Trade Jerick McKinnon. You have to strike when the iron is hot on every single player. And that's exhausting. There's a lot of work to go into this team to turn this around. It's not impossible, but it's going to take a ton of babysitting. And I think my first pick, which I think is Scott's first pick, if you want to go into your trade, my first logic is what's the one piece on this team that makes no sense? It's James Conner. There's no future value here, and he might go to a contender, maybe. So, Scott, what was your trade for James Conner? Because I know you had one.
So I'm I'm shocked that Connor's on the roster in the first place. When he blew up at the end of last year, that's when he was traded by everybody. I had 0 shares at that point because, I mean, Connor's made of glass. He always has been. I've never been interested in him ever. And even I bought 2 shares at the trade deadline last year because he was the hot running back, and I wanted to win my leagues, right? And so any competing team should want that. And when you're starting 3 running backs, there was definitely a place for him. So it comes down to value, and I think a lot of times what happens is you're trying to trade constantly with everyone in your league, and there's kind of trade fatigue there, and so you're gonna have to do. So for Jason, it's not my trade necessarily. It's more my strategy with it. So pick any player on your roster, and you're going to have to do package deals. Okay. I think you're going to have to package your picks. You're going to have to say, so I did James Conner in your 23 second to the island of Foster Moreau for his 23 first and third. So normally I'm just saying, hey, let's package up a little bit, because this guy probably thinks your second's going to be the 201.
Yep.
And if he's confident in his team, he thinks it's going to be a late first. Now, I would disagree. I don't think his team's as good as he probably does. I mean, I don't know what he thinks of his team, but I'm just looking at the quarterbacks and Superflex, and that's typically all I need to look at to know where a team's going to finish. Although Rocky does disprove that from time to time, but in this particular league with these players, I feel like he would be a target for me to pick up his 23 first. It's a team on paper that might be better than it actually produces. So I would be targeting a team like that, but by adding a 4th onto like every deal, or in some cases, the players Andrew mentioned earlier, a Marlon Mack. So when you trade a Marlon Mack for offer your third and go for their second because your third is going to be 301 or 302, right? And so they're only moving back maybe a few spots in theory, and I cannot tell you how many times that has worked out in my favor over the years. There was an orphan I took over in a league Andrew's in, and I traded Gronk right away because I was like, I can't do anything with this guy, and I traded my second for his first. Now the guy ended up winning, so it was the 112. It's not like I made out great there, but hey, I went from like the 206 to the 112 or whatever it was, or the 205 to the 112. So
and we don't know where they're going to end, honestly. Like at this point of the year, it's fun to say, like, okay, I am pretty certain that Jason here, unfortunately, is going to finish at the 01 of whatever round. But trading into that first, that guy might have injuries and other things that happen that make him, instead of the 112, the 106. Right, like I'm almost certain that you're going to be at the early point, but that other pick could leapfrog
always
up, right?
Exactly.
I love
it. Yep. Yes.
The odds of somebody failing is much higher than the odds of somebody succeeding, especially in fantasy and dynasty, especially at this time of year.
Also, those picks are going to hold far more currency for you, because remember, the picks lose the value once you make the pick.
Yep.
So as long as you have the picks and you can turn them into more picks and just keep doing that until you have enough, or until you get enough players, it's an underutilized strategy, in my opinion, is to do that package deal. But when people know you have a bad team and then you put it in front of them, like, listen, you're really only moving back a few spots here,
right? You sell it. Yep.
It's a no-brainer. I mean, it almost always gets accepted. Honestly, I have great success with that.
Well, and then you get a first, and now you can send that to someone else for a first plus something else because they see the first.
That's
right.
Exactly
so like you can literally play the angles on this. You have to win at the margins with this kind of team. You literally have to play all of the possible little tiny twists. And to kind of put it back to what we were saying before, this is the kind of team I'd send so many crappy offers on, because you never know. Like at this point, I'd be sending like 15 offers a day. Like I would be blanketing the league to the point where they see an offer for me and they probably decline it automatically. And I'm like, I don't care at this point. I'm looking for something. So when something happens, they know to reach out to me. They know my team is on a fire sale and I'm looking for picks. I don't mind giving up that information. And this is, again, it's a different playing style. Not everybody does it this way. And I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying this is what I would do with it. I'd have fun with this.
The other thing, though,
let's trade it all.
the other thing is you're gonna have to watch for injured players,
Yep.
injured, suspended, whatever.
Honestly,
anybody whose value takes a hit that is likely to rebound, get those guys. So even like I'll give you an example that wouldn't seem logical. Calvin Ridley.
Yes.
Yeah. He's the guy you want on this team for sure.
Go get Calvin Ridley because he's not going to score you any points. He's not going to make your pick worse, but his value is going to probably most likely. Now, maybe we never hear from this guy again. Who knows what happens with him? But I don't know, he's NFL, very talented receiver. Do you think somebody's going to give him a shot in a year? Pretty likely.
So a couple other names
you can get him for cheap.
Well, a couple other names in that same boat is like Laviska Shenault, Kadarius Toney, hell, JJ Rager, honestly, like Jalen Rager, JJ Arcega-Whiteside, like any of those like crappy no name N'Keal Harry. Like if Harry gets traded or something, you never know. Like you have to take those high risk, low reward.
Do not trade picks for them.
No. Don't trade picks. No.
Make that clear.
Don't trade
Make that clear.
No.
Hey, he traded up to get Matt Corral to 107. So
it's fair.
Come on, Jason. Don't trade
picks.
I'm saying
like trade like Marlon Mack for N'Keal Harry. You know what I'm saying? Like N'Keal Harry has a higher upside than Marlon Mack. You don't need running backs. Literally trade every running back for the best possible receiver you can come up with. Like package 2 of them for Laviska Shenault. Or honestly, like pick any, like see what's on your waivers, which we're not even going to get into on this because it's more of a trade thing. But it's like literally you have to wait.
Waivers all on his roster.
Well, kind of. But again, it's like you have to make every possible upside. What you should be thinking about is what's the most upside. What is the best possible outcome for this player? I want the best possible outcome. And then if it doesn't work, you risk nothing because you're giving up Marlon Mack. You know what I mean? Like you're not risking anything here, right? And so that's where I'm going with it. So to dovetail
I might go
into
a little different way.
That's fine. I love it, John. Yeah, go ahead. What's your logic here?
So I would probably say in the chat, all right, I am going to cut James Conner, or I'll take the best offer by Friday at 5:00. I'm not sending out 15 shitty offers.
I love that.
It's not worth my time. So I'm cutting him at 5:00 Eastern Friday night. Like, and if nobody sends an offer, you cut him. You actually follow through with it and you cut him. And then you go back to the chat and say, I'm going to cut Amon-Ra St. Brown. I will take the best offer by Monday at 5:00. Guess what? Then you're going to get offers. Who cares if James Conner could have gotten you a second? You're going to get better offers because all of a sudden you're going to get offers because people are like, he's not going to cut him. He's not going to cut him. He's just trying to get a deal. No, cut him. Cut him. Just cut him. And then everybody will bitch. Well, somebody's going to get James Conner off the waiver wire. What do you care? It doesn't matter to you. Your team's terrible. James Conner's not going to affect your team in any possible way.
No, he could make your pick higher, actually. Get rid of him.
No positive way will he affect you, unless you can get a second for him at some point. If somebody doesn't offer you a second for him, you're not going to give him away for a third. I would cut him before I took a third for him, honestly. Just to prove the point. Like, I don't want your crappy third-round pick. I will put him out there on the waiver wire, and that person that you don't want to get him, that contender that just needs a backup running back, guess what? He's going to bid against you in Fab now. Have fun. You could have had him if you just gave me a second. You don't like it? Oh, shit. Now Amon-Ra's on the block. Who wants to offer me something? I'm not kidding. Like, that's how I would have fun with that kind of a team.
I don't hate this. It's not how I play it, but I don't hate this.
What do you have to lose? What do you have to lose? A third? You might have lost out on a third for James Conner. Who cares? Like, it's not even holding your league hostage. It's holding them accountable. If they're not paying attention and they're not willing to send an offer that's decent, then up the stakes and say, look, all right, not only am I okay, fine, I'm not going to get what I want. That's fine. But somebody's going to get this player then for a whole hell of a lot less than what you were offering. Maybe you should have heard more.
Well, hang on. I got a question, and I've seen people do this, and Scott Connor does. I've seen people do this, but Scott Connor, I think, has a really interesting way of doing it. It's kind of a combo of this. Well, he'll send out like trade bait and say Connor is worth a third, Marlon Mack's worth a fourth. Like he'll send out like prices for stuff, and then auto accept. First one that comes in gets it for that price.
Yep.
I'd rather do that than threaten to cut with no offer. Because again, if it's an orphan and I'm taking over, I have no idea what this league is like. I don't know how active this league is.
You'll find out real fast.
Oh, you're damn right you will. But you can lose value on that. Like, I don't know if I want to do that.
You're not losing.
Me cares. Me
you're
cares.
Worried about trying to
I don't want to lose value.
You're going to lose a 3rd round pick. You were heartbroken when I said maybe you could have gotten a 3rd for him, and you were like, "Oh, but you could have gotten a 3rd for him." Who cares? Think about what you're learning about.
9% hit rate, those 3rd round picks, baby.
It's not about that. It's about adding a 3rd to a player for a 2nd, and then a player to the 2nd for the 1st. It's about the process. I'm not saying it's a wrong idea.
Speed that process up and say, I'm going to get a 2nd for James Conner, or I'm going to cut him.
Right. And so this is what I'm saying. You send that out and you say trade bait, James Conner 2nd, or I'm cutting him at 5 o'clock. It's like a combo of the two. And I think maybe that's where I would go in my mind, because also I know me, if I say something about I'm cutting James Conner at 5 o'clock on Friday, unless I get an offer, I'm not gonna cut him. Like, I know my I'm not gonna do it.
You can't do that. You have to follow through. And that's why
John, you're giving me anxiety. This isn't even my team. Holy crap. I love it.
The only one that has even a shred of like, maybe he's worth a 2nd. Like, Amon-Ra probably worth a late 1st in this class.
Yeah.
Like, there's nobody else on that roster.
Nobody else.
1st round pick. Like, you're not getting a 2023 3rd for Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like, or 2023 1st. You're not getting that for Amon-Ra. Like, you might get the 112 or 111 in this class. You're not getting a 1st next year. Well, so I don't think you have anything with a 1st. So what do you care? Like, just have fun with it. And honestly, like, that is what I would do. Is I would say James Conner, I think, is the right one to do it, because everybody knows that he's probably going to have some running back value. He's probably worth a 2nd to a few teams in the league, but they might not want to give that because they don't have to, because everybody else is only offering a 3rd. Fine. Then you fight over him on the waiver wire.
I love your cutthroatness, John. This is awesome. I've heard of this, but I haven't talked to you about it. And I'll be honest, you're selling the crap out of it. You're making it very exciting.
I have done it. I have said I am cutting a player by time X, and then I have followed through and done it. And it's
you're bringing up a point that I know that we've hit on before. Value is important, and trying to get your team better and all this. Have fun with it, man. Like, if that's what you want to do, like, honestly,
managers against each other. Like,
and at the same time,
all I can do is cut the player. What do I care? Now it's up to you guys to do whatever you want.
At the same time, you could do it with like a Jimmy G, right? Like, you could be like, hey, I'm cutting Garoppolo. Like, you could do it with anybody. Like, pick anybody, but don't do it with rookies. In my mind, right? Like, you're not going to do it with anybody.
I mean, I'm
you're
going
to do it with somebody that's got short-term value.
I'm not threatening to cut Malik
Willis.
Willis.
To it.
I'm not threatening to cut Corral, I guess. I don't know. I might.
Well, at 107, I would hold Corral. Like, you might as well hold that sunk cost for a minute. But if you do it with like a Trey Sermon, nobody cares, right? Oh, I'm cutting Trey Sermon on Friday, and everybody's going to go, I don't care.
You haven't cut him already.
Got to do it with somebody of value, like Tyler Boyd even. So, like, that's actually so let me talk about this. My trade was similar to Scott's, but it's a little different. And again, I don't know if it'll actually go through, but mine was to send James Conner to Top Gun for Dalton Schultz. Now, Dalton Schultz is getting a ton of publicity. A lot of people like him. I know they're like, I think Chase Vernon put him in as like his top 3 tight ends or something. And it's just getting a lot of kickback and all this. And I'm not here to say it's a right or wrong choice. I'm just saying there are a lot of people out there that really like Dalton Schultz. I am not one of those people. So I'm valuing him about the same as James Conner. And I'd rather have Dalton Schultz on my roster than James Conner in this rebuild. Like, I'd rather hold a young tight end that can get somewhere. So my thought was, let's try that trade. And if it doesn't work, they're like, all right, maybe, because again, they're the best running backs on that team are Aaron Jones, Michael Carter, and Tony Pollard. A little risky. So you could use an RB2, especially if you're contending, which I think that team is. So I'm thinking you might be able to add a little bit to it, or add a little sweetener, do like, I don't know, like I think I put like add Boyd and see if they'll throw in Pierce, the running back. Again, getting a rookie, something like that. Maybe you can add in a vet for a rookie. And then I said, worst case scenario, send Conner for a 23 second as a final backup. Now, here's the twist. You mentioned it too, John. If I don't get a second for Conner, you're cutting him. You're done, right? Is that your logic? Like, if I put that out there and I'm like, hey, if I don't get a second, I'm cutting him, and nobody sends me a second, you're cutting him. You're willing to let go of that value and just be like, here's what
value?
happened.
His value isn't a second. You know why? Because you didn't.
Nobody paid for that.
Value was a third.
Yep, I agree with your logic. I'm just saying.
The value is less than a second. So what do you care about less than a second? A 3rd round pick is not turning around your roster. Like, it's not going to happen.
No, but you're not holding that third round pick. Like, let's be honest. Like, this is, and don't take this the wrong way, John, but you're doing it like in the lazy way, which I don't mind. It's more like I don't have time for this kind of way, right? Like it's almost like I'm just going to shortcut this, and I love that because that's not a bad argument. It's not.
Get it there.
Not. All right.
You can offer me 100 things that say plus a third, and Scott says he listens to every Wall Street. What do I do when their third and fourth round picks are included in Wall Street?
Yeah.
Like, okay, write that off because it's not worth anything.
Yeah. Right.
Like you can give me the whole third round draft. And I'm like, okay,
you got a 10% chance of hitting.
I'll probably hit one player out of that. So that would actually be of some value.
You got to roster 12 of them. Yeah, right?
Yeah,
you have to drop half your team.
That taxi squad better be a hefty taxi squad. Like,
unlimited.
A third round pick's just it's just not worth it. It's not worth it.
I agree with your logic. I agree. So I guess let's wrap this up for a second. Let's go to a different direction. Okay. You're saying you'd rather burn the player and lose the value, and then what? And then what? Like if you lose the value on everything, is your logic then I'm not scoring any points, I'm not trading any of my picks, like I'm just going to sit here and wallow for 2 years until I get my players back and I get
it's on the next guy. They know you're serious, so they're gonna pay up and give you the value.
That's where I was gonna say. Like now,
at least make
they pay more maybe for that one because they know you're serious, right?
Yeah. Yes. So you gain
that value back.
There's a reaction. There is a reaction if you go this route. You will get a reaction in the league, and for me, anytime because when I play games, I do like to try and force other people to be in bad spots.
To make a decision that hurts them. Yeah.
Yes. I would rather them be reactionary and me be putting them in a position to have to react. Does that make sense? You'd rather
be the king telling them to cut their baby in half than the person deciding which half do I keep, right? Like it's that you're like, I just want to be in charge of something. You know what I mean? Like
I don't know. I mean, I don't want to cut any babies in half. Like I don't want to be that person.
Well, obviously.
But I'm just saying, like I'm willing to give that up because I think what I gain then is the league will react and pay attention. And when I then say Amon-Ra St. Brown getting ready to do the same thing, what are we going to do? That's somebody they're not going to want to just see on the waiver wire. So you make a reaction. And okay, so if you don't follow through with it, then James Conner just sits on your roster, and guess what he's worth next year at this time?
Less. And he's scoring points for you, which is bad. But Jason doesn't have his own first. So let's be clear about that too.
Yeah.
There's no real value in that, but it is still worth mentioning. Like him scoring points is bad technically, but not for him.
But I mean, so like you have nothing to gain from keeping James Conner on your roster. Absolutely zero to gain. He's never going to increase in value from here on. He's not going to magically become worth a first. He might be worth a second right now.
Well, let's pivot on this for just a second. This is a start 3 running back league. Remember how we talked about that before? Like there is
probably
actually
worth a second.
Right. There is some value in a running back in this league in the start 3 because there aren't that many. After 30, it drops off a freaking cliff. I mean, you're starting guys like, I don't know, Chase Edmonds in some leagues, and then the next one you're like Savon Ahmed is my third. Like that's all I got. Like there is some value in a third running back, and I think more than Amon-Ra St. Brown even in this league. I think you can find a buyer, but you're right. You're exactly right. You're going to have to put in some work to find that buyer. And if you're not the kind of person that's interested in finding that work, I mean, I don't blame you for doing like, and this is going to sound bad. I don't blame you for saying like the lazy route and being like, here's what it is. It's a shortcut. I'm just going to get it over with.
I am all about efficiency. I do not mind it. Lazy to me just forces me to figure out different ways to do things.
Well, I'll put it this way. I just took over an orphan 2 weeks ago, and I am sitting here contemplating doing that exact thing you mentioned because it's a DTC league, and I'm like, that could be really entertaining to watch some of these Dynasty Trade Calculator guys go a little bit nuts on waivers. So it's kind of, I don't know, I'm buying into it, John. I kind of dig it. This could be a lot of fun. You're right, because it also pits everyone against each other. It puts you as like, I'm out, I don't care. I'm thinking about it. I'm not
by the way, if I have anybody, like I'm clearly not looking for like massive returns. So then maybe you do start getting a bunch of third round picks because they're like, well, hell, I can throw a third round at this other. Who else was on there? Like Marlon Mack and stuff like that. Like, like maybe somebody offers you a fourth rounder because they know, well, this guy doesn't care about any of these players. So literally any player on this guy's roster is fair game for me to offer. This is the league where you do want the crappy offers. Right. You're hoping people send you even crappy offers just so you can start, because maybe you do eventually get to having the entire third round of the draft, and then you get one player out of it. Even if you have to give up 12 players,
not that bad, right?
And you get one. It's worth it, because a lot of those guys, if you look at that roster, what it is right now, and you look at where those players are a year from now, maybe 2 years. nice disclaimer. 2 years from now, the majority of those guys are on the waiver wire. Maybe a couple of the quarterbacks are around, and maybe one of the tight ends and a wide receiver, but like that's a waiver wire team. So
here, let's wrap this up for a second here, because I think we've actually done a really good job of giving him some options, more so than most. I'm so glad you're on, John. This is great. I
so badly want to see what Jason does. I'm sure he'll tell us.
He'll tell
us.
Jason,
he'll tell us.
Check in, send us trades. Every time you make a trade, send us a DM or tag us on something. Give us a poll. You know, if you do something like John's saying, where you do the threaten to cut. Tell us how it goes,
that would be awesome.
Because this is one of those leagues. You're probably right. This is one of those leagues you could have a lot of fun with and never win it, but it's worth the entry fee just to have the fun. And I'm in a couple of those where it's like, I just want to play in a league with these people and like trade talk with them and like talk trash with them. And like, I don't care how my team does. There are plenty of those leagues out there. And so if you're in one of these just for fun leagues and it's $10, $20, and you don't care, you're like, hey, whatever. I don't mind this logic. I'm coming around, John. I kind of dig it. And I think too, something else that he mentioned, which is what Rocky mentioned, is that maybe you start targeting that 24 class, right? And Kevin actually brought this up in the chat. Is like, couldn't Connor and Amon-Ra fetch a 24 first together? You're probably right. But I don't mind John's logic of just blowing it up, literally blowing it up, and like seeing the chaos that explosion causes that ricochets across the league. And
the worst outcome is it's going to take 3 years to rebuild your team. You're already there. So like,
so here's the thing. Jason just commented, I will for sure try. I'm going to try John's idea. Jason, please keep us posted.
To follow through and cut.
You are now officially the Dynasty Junkies episode 95 team. And we are very curious to see how this goes. But I think we've beat this into the ground. I think we get the idea. And I'll be honest, John, you've given me some terrific ideas. I'm glad you're on, because now I'm going to go do some of this crazy crap in leagues, and they're going to be like, what are you doing? And I'm like, John Bosch said it was okay. It's all right. It's all right. John Bosch said it was okay. He's the commissioner. He knows what he's doing. So, wow. What a team. What a conversation. This has been great. I'm really excited to see what happens here. What about you, Scott?
Jason, I just can't wait for the updates, man.
Me neither. I'm excited. This is going to be great.
It's going to be a good time. But I also I usually just say that, Russ said it was okay. But now I get to say John said it was okay too.
John
so now
said
we could spread it around a little bit,
Yes. Oh, well, all right, John, do you have anything else you want to pitch before we're out of here? Anything else going on in your world? Anything you want to talk about? We've been on for a while. This has been a great episode. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to listen to this and have fun. This is going to be great. But anything you want to
sign up
talk
for
about?
Eliminators, folks. That's
Eliminators. Always the Eliminators. Exactly.
That is all I am for the next 3 to 4 weeks. Just Eliminators.
Well, I'm with you. It's going to be awesome to help out. So yeah, go sign up for some Eliminators. We have some spots left in the Dynasty Junkies Eliminator if you want to play against us. We can't do trades, we can't do cuts, we can't do ad drops, but definitely keep us posted, Jason, how that goes. And anyone else that's listening, if you decide to just blow it up, put someone on the block and cut them, I love it. Let's see how it goes. But yeah, it's going to be a great year. Let's do it.
All right. Well, with that, let's wrap this thing up. As always, thanks to all the homies in the chat. Jason, thank you so much for the amazing submission. This was a fun one. This is a fun one. I mean, hey, we try to do different ones and get different theories, and that's how it goes, man. Hopefully we can help more than one person, right? That's what it's all about, one person at a time. Yeah. So, all right. Blame Rocky for anything that went wrong. Check. Andrew on Twitter at Andrew Hall FF. John on Twitter at John Bosch FF. Myself at Scott _Sidlow. Rocky at Dynasty FF Addict. Of course, the DAP Network. Follow, subscribe, rate, and review. We are currently bribing for your reviews. If you submit a Find Me a Trade and give us a review, we will move you up the list for that. So definitely want to, give us a review if you want to move up the list. And we have incredible list of guests coming up here. We have some really fun ones coming on. You do not want to miss the next couple weeks. We're gonna have a lot more great content and a lot more nonsense. So that's what you can find here on the Junkies. It is May and we are all in, and man, we love this shit. So with that, for John, for Andrew, I'm Scott Sidlow. Junkies out.
See you.